It's February, and this is the Library Roadshow. On the show today, annual events like the Mid-City Microcon, Super Tax Day, and more. Welcome to the February edition of the Library Roadshow. I'm Mary Stein, and this is a production of your East Baton Rouge Parish Library System. For all the folks who love to count things, how about this? More than 1.7 million visits through our doors, more than 900,000 reference questions answered, and almost 3 million items checked out in 2025. You know, we added up what it would have cost you to buy all the things that you checked out and downloaded, and it came to about $90 million. That's a pretty good return on investment for 2025. Now, February is the month of love, and there's lots to love about this month at the library. If there's a special someone in your life, dazzle them with your poetry prowess from this month's variety of poetry writing workshops. There are plenty of classes to choose from, so take your pick of the litter. February is also Black History Month, and the East Baton Rouge Parish Library is celebrating by inviting Dr. Charles Vincent for his annual series, Heroes in African American History. This year's theme is a century of Black history commemorations. Join Dr. Vincent at the Baker Branch Library on Saturday, February 28th at 3 p.m. to do your part in celebrating this historic month. After January, holding on to those New Year's resolutions can be tricky, especially as responsibilities start to pile up. If you're in need of some organization, we've got your back. Join professional organizer Alyssa Trosclair as she teaches us all about overcoming procrastination. Alyssa will give you the professional tips to make sure your 2026 stays productive and stress-free. And speaking of less stress, the East Baton Rouge Parish Library wants all students walking into school feeling confident about what they're learning. And how do we do that? Tutoring, of course. The Baton Rouge Magnet High School Beta Club will offer free tutoring services February 7th, 21st, and 28th. Make sure you're walking into your next exam with your brain and your pencil as sharp as a tack. And don't forget free online tutoring till midnight, every night with Homework Louisiana. Keeping on the theme of less stress, we're hosting Super Tax Day on Saturday, February 28th at the Main Library on Goodwood. This annual event includes workshops on financial literacy, a resource fair, and free income tax preparation by trained certified volunteers. All free, of course. Pairs nicely with our Financial Fit platform in the digital library. Looking back a few months, you might remember that since the millage proposal did not pass at the November election, the library's tax expired in December. To secure funding for the next 10 years, we're writing the next chapter and introducing a new dedicated millage continuation designed to secure stable funding for everything that keeps our libraries functioning. This is a straightforward, simple, standalone tax at the lower tax rate of 9.5 mils, including 2 rollbacks over the 10-year period. Do your part in writing the next chapter of the East Baton Rouge Parish Library System and learn more at ebrpl.com/millage. Help us build a better, brighter future for all of East Baton Rouge Parish. As always, check out this month's edition of The Source for information about a host of free programs for all ages and interests, available in print and online at ebrpl.com.
Free access to books, audio, and library resources are just a few of the benefits available to you when you get a library card. Need free access to a computer? You get that. Want free access to premium digital resources like Mango Languages and lynda.com? You get that. Need to book a meeting space? You get that. Heck, you can even check out a telescope or use a digital printer with your library card. If you live in East Baton Rouge Parish, pick up your free library card from your local branch library today. Premium access to everything the library system has to offer is waiting for you.
We're so fortunate to be able to offer our patrons access to the entire world through the digital library. And our local patrons are hungry to read the news from other cities, states, and even beyond. One resource is especially good at reaching beyond our own shores. Let's find out more in the digital download.
Press Reader is a world-class digital newsstand that offers unlimited free access to over 7,000 of the world's most popular newspapers and magazines. All you need is your library card. The platform delivers content from over 120 countries in more than 60 languages. Some newspapers of note you'll find are the New York Times, the Dallas Morning News, and the Guardian. Magazine titles include The Economist, Cosmopolitan, and Men's Health. The publications appear in their original full-color layout, replicating the print experience. Press Reader also has a selection of word games, including daily crosswords and word searches. You can use Press Reader in a browser or through the dedicated Press Reader app. You can download complete issues to read offline, use the text-to-speech feature, and even translate articles into other languages. Press Reader gives you an all-access pass to current and back issues, connecting you to trusted news and engaging stories from around the corner and around the globe. You can find more digital magazines through Flipster and Libby in the digital library, as well as redeem access passes for the Washington Post, Wall Street Journal, and the New York Times. You'll find these and more at ebrpl.com.
Extra, extra, read all about it. Read all about Press Reader, that is, and so many more digital platforms at ebrpl.com. Knowledge is power, and we want you to be as mighty as you can be. So to all you news junkies, try out Press Reader today. Let's shift gears now and go beyond the stacks.
We're at the main branch of the EBR library system, and we're getting ready to do a presentation about the history of Baton Rouge area car dealers. This particular branch, the main branch, is a gorgeous facility. I heard someone recently that had, from out of town, that had come to this library, and they made the comment, we had no idea Baton Rouge had a library or a library system like this. So this is something that Baton Rougeans, East Baton Rougeans should be proud of. This is state of the art, and the library system puts on quite a few different things like this, and as well as training to use things like 3D printers, and maybe the people in this area don't know enough about that. Maybe we need to get the word out, especially when we're getting ready to vote for a library tax that should get passed overwhelmingly. I just recently started really digging back in the history of Baton Rouge dealerships. I thought I knew a lot about it, and I realized I knew very little. My first real job was working for Polk Chevrolet. It's a very old brand, wide range of products, great individual stories through Chevrolet, whether, Corvettes or whether the ill-fated Corvair. So there's a tremendous amount of history through Chevrolet, and all the way back into the very early 1900s. I worked for a couple of other dealers before I got into the industrial market. But even though I only spent 4 or 5 years in the car business, I always kind of felt like I was a car guy, and I've always been interested in the automotive industry. We were just talking about, a group of us a moment ago, we were talking about dealers like Price LeBlanc, who is, Price LeBlanc is deceased now. But there were some very colorful characters, and I'm sure that we could go to any community and find people like Price LeBlanc, but he was very unique. And we had a lot of colorful characters in the Baton Rouge area that, and I would call that in the golden age of automobiles, but Price LeBlanc might have been one of the few that actually continued that trajectory into modern times, whereas other dealerships became somewhat sterile. Price LeBlanc was always the guy, you just knew him. Everybody thought they knew him, yeah.
Baton Rouge car dealers are a niche bit of city history that many people think they don't know about, but actually do. Does Price LeBlanc ring a bell? Or shall I say a honk a horn? John Singleton recently joined us to dish out the details of Baton Rouge car dealers. And I think we all left that presentation feeling like a group of gearheads. So next time you drive down the airline, look at all the dealerships as little pieces of history waving at you down the road. Stay right there. After the break, Brandon Riley joins me for a chat right here on the Library Roadshow.
The East Baton Rouge Parish Library believes that supporting the education of students is good for us all. That's why we provide access to live, in-person, online tutoring through Homework Louisiana, make available free test preparation tools through Learning Express and Mometrics, plus reference tools for all ages. Get a library card. Get free education at ebrpl.com/homeworkhelp. Preparing children to enter kindergarten is good for us all. That's why we created Press Start, an early learning initiative that provides a free activity booklet every month that explores early literacy skills through play and interaction at home. Get a library card.
You're watching the February edition of the Library Roadshow. Everything you need to know about your local library system. Now, once a year, we invite you to geek out, channel your favorite hero, and get your Superman cape on, or some version thereof. I'm talking about the Mid-City Microcon. Our community programming coordinator, Brandon Riley, is here to share all the details. Okay, first of all, Brandon, when's it all shaking down?
February 21st, a Saturday. Hopefully a lovely Saturday with perfect weather from 10 till 5 this year.
Okay, so a full day.
A full day of activities.
And what's in store at this year's Microcon? Of course, I'm seeing our fabulous cover here on the newsletter, but you tell me what's happening.
Well, we have fan favorite Keith Douglas is coming back to do
That's the cartoon man.
Yes, Keith the Cartoon Man is coming back to do his drawing workshop. Last year, over 100 people attended, and we're hoping to see similar numbers this year. Relative newcomer and a person who does regular programming for us here at the library, Pratima Pinapali will be here to do her zine workshop. There's going to be anime glass painting in the teen area all day long, basically. We have Red Dog Terrain and Little Wars will be here teaching people how to make miniature little environments for their tabletop gaming. Plastic Microphone Podcasting Group will be here as part of a panel discussion, also with Blurtish and some other podcasters, just to talk about the process of making podcasts. And new this year, all day long, in our innovation lab here, our maker space here, people who want to do live podcasts will be able to sign up and come in and do a podcast. We have slots all throughout the day for people to live podcast or do a little production. Yeah, isn't it great?
I love that.
It's great.
So the whole day is not just walking around and look at someone's graphic novel or their cartoon or their anime, manga, whatever. It's hands-on.
Absolutely not. And that's just half of the day. I would really like to talk about the fact that we're once again doing the cosplay show and tell.
Oh, okay.
Okay.
Yes.
So you get to talk about your process and you can talk as little or as much as you want about the process of making your art, right? We're going to have food trucks. In the afternoon, we have a special guest maybe from the setup for us with the Blues Fest, Chris Thomas King, who has a very, very interesting perspective on where the blues actually came from. So he's going to talk about that. He's written a book about it. He's going to do a performance. That and many, many, many other things.
I love it. So how do we find out more besides the cover of the newsletter?
Well, we have a special website set up for it. You can get to it by going to ebrpl.co/microcon, and that'll take you right to our guide, which includes lists of all the food trucks, the vendors, a map of the day, the schedule of the day, and if you need to get in touch with us about something, that information is there as well.
And of course, it's free.
Absolutely.
And family friendly.
Who should come? The whole family. Your friends, everybody.
And especially whether you're a fan or you're a fan who wants to start dabbling. You can slide from one into the other. I love it. You know, I really look forward to the energy and excitement that the presenters and the fans bring to the library at the Mid-City Microcon every year. So I guess it's time for me to dust off the old book hat and suit up. After the break, author David Starkey. Stay with us.
The East Baton Rouge Parish Library believes that a thriving business community is good for us all. That's why we help entrepreneurs start a business with tools like Gale Business Builder. Keep commerce rolling by providing free access to computers and free Wi-Fi at 15 branch locations. Get a library card. Grow your business at ebrpl.com/departments/small business.
Welcome back to the February edition of the Library Roadshow. Our next guest is a storyteller with a sharp eye for history, culture, and the unexpected adventures that happen when worlds collide. David Starkey is the author of a new book, The Fairley Brothers in Japan, a fascinating true story. David is joining us by phone today to talk about the inspiration behind the book, the real-life characters at the heart of the story, and what readers might be surprised to learn. Please welcome author David Starkey. David, how did you get your start as an author?
I got my start as an author really when I was in high school. Started writing seriously then. But I think my real start began when I received my MFA from LSU way back in 1990. I was among the first graduate creative writing students, and I focused on poetry, but my time in Baton Rouge was incredibly influential for my writing overall, including for my novel, The Fairley Brothers in Japan.
What is this book about?
So my new novel, The Fairley Brothers in Japan, is about two brothers, Chris and Andy, who were in a semi-successful folk rock band in the 1980s. It's been decades since they were in the limelight, but a snippet from their only hit, which is Whenever I Hit the Road, is being used in a Honda CR-V commercial in Japan only. And Andy now lives in Japan, and he invites Chris to join him for a reunion tour, which is, at least at first, comically frustrating.
What inspired you to write this book?
I was inspired to write the book because my son lives in Japan, and I've visited him 8 times in 9 years. So I have a kind of working knowledge of how Japan looks to an outsider. I'm also a semi-professional musician and a music critic, and the two worlds, traveling in Japan and making and writing about music, turned out to be a pretty good combination for a road novel.
What advice would you give to an aspiring author?
Advice I would give to aspiring authors: well, first, don't give up. The more you write, the better you'll become. So what might at first look like failure is actually just practice for success. And of course, read. It's great to take classes from more experienced writers, and you should do that whenever possible. But your real teachers are always going to be the books that you love and admire.
Where can our viewers learn more about you and your work?
They can go to my website, davidstarkey.net. That's .net, not .com. There happens to be another David Starkey, a British historian and TV presenter, with whom I have no connection. Above all, viewers can learn more about me and my work by reading my books, especially The Fairley Brothers in Japan, my new novel. And if you have a comment, please stop by my website, davidstarkey.net, and drop me a line. Thank you so much.
Thanks, David. Incidentally, Opera Louisiane is putting on a production of Madame Butterfly in April, so it's a great time to learn about Japanese history and culture through books, as well as digital platforms like A to Z World Foods, Medici, Canopy, and more. And how about checking out Japanese culture today through the magazines and press reader in the digital library? You can really do some armchair traveling. And speaking of traveling, makerspaces are the go-to location to learn a new skill. We've got sewing, 3D printing, heat pressing, button making, and even laser cutting.
I got into the library because I always liked books. I started at the children's department at the Carver Branch Library, and then this position became available. Hi, my name is Joy. This is the makerspace, and we make stuff. We've got the sewing machines, so any sewing, like for the sewing classes, we usually make either like a drawstring bag or a scrunchie. There's the button makers that make just like the little pin badge can buttons. Got the Cricut can make almost anything. The sublimation printer, the 3D printer can make all sorts of little 3D models. We've also got the recording studio here. That's pretty popular, which is just audio recording, podcasts, music, what have you. You can just try a whole bunch of really cool crafts that have like really expensive components. Like the laser cutter is an expensive machine, even a significantly smaller one than what we have. That's not something that you can just easily try at home. It's kind of an investment hobby, whereas if you come to the library and do that, you get to use the machine with your library card, and your investment is maybe materials. We have all sorts of free scrap that people can use. Same with any of the other machines we have. It's less of a monetary investment into trying out a new hobby. You can just play with stuff and make things for fun. I knew before I got this job about like sewing, I knew about the Cricut, I knew about 3D printing, didn't know anything about lasers. I learned all that when I started this job. It's a CO2 laser, so there's like a laser tube that I think has like CO2 in it, I assume. Chemical reactions happen, a light bounces off a bunch of mirrors, and then a laser happens and it burns things. The class I teach safety because, like I said, it burns things. So there's the fire safety, material safety, what materials you can use, what materials you can't. A lot of safety stuff. The safety part is important. Then how to use just very simple basics of now Adobe Illustrator. Before it was CorelDRAW, but we've since updated to Illustrator. And then how to use the laser itself and how to use Adobe for the laser and not just the things people usually associate Illustrator with. If children want to come, we highly recommend parents come because, again, fire, just to know what your kids are getting into, and plus it's fun, you might want to do it too. Usually we have older adults and teens coming to these classes, but they're for anybody.
Earning your Makerspace badge is easy. Visit ebrpl.com to find the class you want to take, where it's being held, and when it starts. Sign up, and then all that's left to do is show up, show out, and earn your badge. You'll be creating and crafting in no time. There are even online badging opportunities for specific devices. Stay right there. You're watching the February edition of the Library Roadshow.
The East Baton Rouge Parish Library believes that knowing where you come from is good for us all. That's why we grant free access to genealogy resources available through Ancestry.com. Make the vast historic resources of Heritage Quest available to you online. Get a library card. Get your family tree at ebrpl.com/departments/special collections.
You're watching the February edition of the Library Roadshow, a production of your East Baton Rouge Parish Library System. Everyone and everything has some history attached to it. Pick any person in this library or any book on the shelf, and with even the briefest inquiry, you'll come to find out that they all carry a backstory that makes them unique. Our genealogy department specializes in all the intricate details of the past and is joined together for a specialty luncheon of learning. Let's have a look.
My name is Sarah Pommier. I am the librarian and digital archivist in our Special Collections Department here at the East Baton Rouge Parish Library. The Special Collections Department is a two-sided department. We do genealogy as well as housing the Baton Rouge Archives, also known as the Baton Rouge Room, or also known by Mary Stein, our wonderful assistant director, as Baton Rouge's attic. We house manuscripts, photographs, yearbooks, costumes, mascots, artifacts, just anything that has to do with the history of Baton Rouge and East Baton Rouge Parish, social history, cultural history, you name it, we probably have it. Today we hosted our genealogy brown bag series. And even though I mostly work on the archive side of things, we've been kind of blending the two into this brown bag series where we're not only focusing on family research topics.
My name is John Ricca. I'm a Library Tech 2 in the Special Collections Genealogy section. I've been with the section for about 10 years. We've started this program, the Brown Bag Lunch, about a year ago. The idea is to get the patrons together to participate, not just have us give a class, to get their input. Quite often we'll have someone with a problem and someone else in the room will have a solution to it. And that's kind of how it was meant to work, and that's kind of how it's been working.
We noticed that patrons would stay behind after our genealogy classes and they would share their own research with one another. They would ask advice from one another, help on their own research. So we just wanted to make something that would give them the opportunity to meet up and discuss amongst themselves. Like today, this is a very informal, no registration required event. We encourage people to bring their lunches. And today, we didn't necessarily discuss genealogy, but we did discuss gotchas, which is family history in and of itself. So right now we're kind of merging genealogy topics such as researching family stories, researching cemeteries, and then today we've incorporated gotchas history, which is a pretty important aspect of Baton Rouge history as a whole.
The brown bag lunches have been very successful. It's grown to the point that we didn't expect, to allow us to actually use a larger room. And we do get a lot of participation and a lot of back and forth communication between the patrons that use the program.
I find the main reason why we do what we do is to keep the memories of the ordinary people alive. A lot of times in history we hear about the more powerful, the more prominent, but places like the Baton Rouge Room Archive gives us an insight into the daily lives and past generations before us. So here we have people who can come find their grandparents, their parents in yearbooks. They can research their family in the newspaper. They can find photographs of their family, photographs of their neighborhood that they grew up with that doesn't look the way it does now. It's just our way of making sure that we remember the past for future generations.
The genealogy staff of the Baton Rouge Room have really upped their game with new badging classes, great lectures, and the ever-growing Brown Bag Lunch series. And nothing goes better with lunch than a side of learning. So if you want to join us for the next Genealogy Brown Bag Lunch, it'll take place at the main library on Friday, February 13th. To know when future lunches will take place, look at our monthly calendar located at ebrpl.com. Make sure you bring your hungry brain and belly. We hope to see you there. And now for today's contest. Visit the library's Facebook page at facebook.com/ebrpl. Tell us what superhero you aspire to be and why. That's facebook.com/ebrpl. And while you're there, enjoy. We're not your grandfather's library anymore. What's coming up on the Library Roadshow next month? Well, we'll be celebrating poetry in nature and nature in poetry as we launch the 2026 Spring One Book, One Community series featuring You Are Here, Poetry in the Natural World. Thanks so much for joining us on the Library Roadshow, and remember, your East Baton Rouge Parish Library is open 7 days a week at each and every one of 15 branches, plus 24/7 on the web. Check us out at ebrpl.com.